guys, what's going on? Welcome back to my channel. So in this video, I'm going to show you guys how to propagate your Monstera Deliciosa. There's many reasons why we propagate our houseplants. One being it is an inexpensive way to expand the collection of your plants. The other is to save a plant from dying. So what you typically want to do when you see a plant that is about to die and you can't seem to save it is take a cutting, root it in water, and then plant it in soil. And the other is obviously to share it with your friends and family, because I think that is the best gift you can give them. So in this case, I want to give a friend of mine who's been looking for Monstera Deliciosa for almost a year now, this cutting that we're gonna do right now. And you know, Monstera Deliciosa has become a lot more popular nowadays, and that's why they're very difficult to find, because not only are they in demand, but they are extremely expensive nowadays. Thankfully, I found mine at Walmart for $14.98. If you guys have not seen that video yet, I'll be linking it in the description below, as well as putting it on the card here in the corner, or this corner. And it is actually one of my first houseplant videos, so it's actually cool to watch it. And you'll see how small that Monstera was from Walmart and how big he is now today. But prior to that, I also got another Monstera Deliciosa for $45, which was actually my first one. And that was 2 years ago. Nowadays, to find a Monstera that size, it ranges anywhere between like $50 to $75, and sometimes I've seen as expensive as over $100. So they are extremely expensive now. So if you have a Monstera Deliciosa, do a cutting, propagate it, root it, plant it in soil, and give it to a friend of yours or family member, because plant is meant to be shared. Before we get started, if you have not subscribed to this channel yet, be sure to do so. Also follow me on Instagram at Crazy Plant Guy. That's where I am pretty much every day. So what I'm going to go through with you guys today is where to cut your Monstera Deliciosa, how to root it in water, where to place it in your home, and then once it's rooted, how to plant it in soil, and the soil mix I use. So let's get this video started. Hey guys, so here I am with my Monstera Deliciosa from Walmart, and as you can see, he is huge. And what I'm going to do is look for a vine here and then find an aerial root of where I want to cut. So you typically want to cut about ½ an inch to an inch just below the aerial root, and the reason for it is because the aerial root is where the roots are going to grow from when you put it in water. So let's go and find that vine and aerial root on where to cut. Decided that we're going to cut this vine right here, and this is where that aerial root that I want to cut. So I'm going to cut probably just below, just again ½ an inch to an inch below that aerial root. And you're going to take a sharp, clean pruning scissors or knife, and you're just gonna cut that guy right here. So let's do that right now. So here's the aerial root, and I want to cut just below that, about right here. And from there you want to snip it, and there you guys have it. So as you can see, there's the aerial root, and I left about, you know, ½ an inch to an inch, just cutting below that. All right, so here's our cutting. It is a 3-leaf one, and technically I could have cut just below this aerial root, which is a smaller one, below this node right here, but because it was too small, I wanted to make sure that it would root really well, so I did cut the second aerial root, which is a little bit bigger, and that's where I cut just below it. So what you want to do next is get yourself a jar or vase that's clear, see-through. Put some water in it. Tap water is fine, and you then want to place your cutting in the water, and you want to make sure that the aerial root is submerged in water, and this is how that will look, right? So that is where the roots will come. So the next step is to obviously place this in an area that gets a lot of bright indirect light. You never want these guys sitting in direct sunlight for very long periods of time, but you want to make sure they get as much bright light as possible, because that is what will help grow the roots faster. I typically have mine just about 5 feet away from my south-facing window here. It gets a lot of bright indirect light, but also gets a couple hours of direct sunlight in the morning, which I typically don't mind having on my Monstera, because again, it is morning sunlight, it is not as strong. And right now it's winter, so I don't mind them getting a couple hours of direct sunlight, because again, I find that the roots grow faster the more light they get. Now, the water will evaporate, so what you guys want to make sure is you keep an eye on making sure it is well topped up, that the aerial root doesn't go above the water that's trying to root, right? You want to make sure that's always submerged below water. So make sure you top it up. Now, How often should you change the water is up to you. I typically will do it when I notice that the water is obviously getting dirtier and there's things hanging around the roots. So what I'll do is I'll obviously remove the cutting and put it under running water to wash the roots, and then I'll clean the jar and then put fresh water in there, and then put the cutting back in and place him in the same area where he's been sitting for all that time. So you'll see the roots start to form anywhere between 5 to 14 days. It really depends how much bright light it gets. I started to notice mine within a week. And so they'll typically come out of the aerial roots, and then from there they'll grow out. And I typically will wait about maybe until they're about 2 to 4 inches before I pot them in soil. So this is what they'll look like once they are rooted. You can see how healthy this root system is. The roots are probably anywhere between 2 to 4 inches long, which is to me perfect and ready to be planted into soil. And yeah, this was one of the aerial roots, and from there kind of spun out 2 more aerial roots, and then from there grew the roots out. So pretty cool on how the root system grows on the Monstera. And this has got a few aerial roots here growing as well, and it's even got a new leaf going. So I've had this probably in water for maybe about 6 weeks. And again, I typically want to wait until the root system is about 4 inches long before I decide to plant this in soil. So my friend is definitely going to be happy with this. I'm happy with it, and let's go plant this in soil now. The next step is to plant this guy into soil. So of course you're going to need a container that is large and deep enough to make sure that the roots have room to grow, but also not too big, because I find that Monsteras like to be a little bit snug in their container. You also want to make sure your container has drainage holes in them. Now the soil mix I'm going to use is a standard potting mix that you can get at your local garden center or big box stores, and I'll also add a bit of cacti soil. So I'll typically do about 70% premium potting mix and then maybe a 20% cacti soil, and then the rest I will add orchid bark and perlite to help with the drainage system, and then I will also throw in a bit of peat moss to help retain the moisture in the soil. So I've already put about about maybe a third of the soil into this pot, which is perfect for where this guy is going to sit. You want to make sure that when you are planting this guy, that the soil will be just above the top of the aerial root and where the roots start to grow. So you want to make sure that is below the soil. So I will go ahead and mix. So I already have my premium potting mix with cacti soil here. So again, 70% premium potting mix and then 20% cacti soil. And then the rest is orchid bark, perlite, and peat moss. So I will mix those all together, throw it in here, and make sure that this is nice and well mixed. And then we're going to plant this guy. I'm actually really excited for this, and I know my friend's gonna love this. I know he's been looking for a Monstera for a while now. And by the way, if you guys are looking for how to care for a Monstera Deliciosa, I did also do a video of that. I'll put a link in the description below, and also check out the card here in the corner. So again, we're gonna put this guy right in the center. You wanna make sure that it is just about an inch below where the top of this container is, and so it's a little bit too low, so I'm going to add a bit more soil here before we place him again. So maybe just another layer, about an inch of a layer, and then let's see where this guy's going to sit. Yeah, I think this guy's going to be perfect. So I'll show you guys right there. So you want to make sure where he's sitting is going to be, so this top root right there is just going to be just above, just where this line is, where the line of the container is, right? So we're gonna do that. Place in the center, and then put soil around. And yeah, I'm excited for this. You know, I swear, like, propagating Monsteras I find is so easy. Honestly, once you can get the roots growing, propagating any plant is pretty easy. And so what I want to do is obviously make sure that the soil is packed, but not too packed that the water can't drain through. But you also want to make sure he's secure there, and doesn't fall. So if you notice, he has a bit of also aerial roots growing, and you can technically snip this off or just stick them back into, or point them in the direction of the soil, but I'm gonna leave them on because maybe my friend might wanna add a moss pole in here one day when he grows big, and the aerial roots will grab onto that and kind of grow upwards. So now that you planted this guy, what you wanna do is obviously water him, just to make sure that the soil and the roots will kind of merge together. And let's go do that right now. Guys, go. Just a bit. Perfect. So what I want to do from here on is actually place him back to where he was sitting, obviously close to my south-facing window, gets a lot of bright light. And I want to monitor him for the next week before I think he's ready to be gifted to my friend. But I'm really excited about this. This is actually really excited. I mean, this Monstera plant is a beauty already, and I'm excited for my friend to have it, and I'm excited for him to care for it, and I can't wait to see this guy in a year's time, see how big he gets. But that is pretty much it. That is how I go about propagating a Monstera Deliciosa and planting them in soil. Hopefully you guys found this video informative and whatnot, but if you do have any other questions, feel free to comment below and let me know, and I'll try and answer them as much as I can. Other than that, hopefully you guys are enjoying your weekend, and I'll see you guys soon. Peace.